One day about 20 years ago, I bought a parts bin at a gun show. Just a whole bunch of random parts in it. And inside was this. It was an original owner's manual, documentation, instruction booklet for a 38 Chiefs Special Revolver, model 36. And I always held on to it. I threw it in all my instruction manuals. And I said, one of these days, I'm going to end up with one of these. And it'll automatically come with documentation. Well, the day finally came. Come on along, let's talk about some guns. Milsurp Garage. All right, so what do we got here? A Model 36, Smith Wesson Model 36. Take a look at this thing. Clean. It's a little grimy, but it had that, just been sitting in a gun sock for 30 years kind of grime. Cleaned up nice, but, I really give it the treatment. I really get in there. Look at those. Oof. That's a clean gun. Nice shape. Sweet little gun. It really is. So, listen, this is a new acquisition to me. Wasn't really up on these things. I'm going to do my best. Stick with me. I'll throw a lot of information at you here, but a lot of it is just going to be from me reading some of the stuff I have. I have tons of Smith & Wesson information. But trying to figure out how to disseminate this. Is that a word? Disseminate? How to give it to you guys in like a logical order that makes sense is tough. But I do have some pretty cool information. So let's just get into like what it is. It's a J frame. A J frame. So the J frame came about when Smith & Wesson moved into the 38 special round. This was 1950. They needed a new frame where they could step up from the I frame, which is their smaller frame, into a larger frame that was capable of handling the 38 special. So yeah, let's start off. Let's just get right into some literature here. Oh, good. I'm glad I didn't have a glare. You got to worry with the glare with this book. The Roy Jenks History of Smith & Wesson book. Get one of these. They're old. There's different versions of it, but I see them on eBay. Get an original. This book is awesome. What can I tell you? It's the best. Well, here it is. This is what I was going to sit here and actually read to you, but 1949, C.R. Hellstrom requested the engineering department to begin designing a new small frame revolver that could fire the more powerful 38 special cartridge. This new revolver would incorporate a slightly larger frame than the I frame that was currently in production. The new frame size was to be called the J frame. So we'll take this one step at a time. Let's show you exactly what we're talking about here. So here, see this Smith & Wesson Terrier here? Model 32. You're like, yeah, that looks like it. Right? Look, like here's the 30 here's the 36, right? 2 or 3 inch barrel, 5 shots, overall length 6.5 inches, weight 19 ounces. Yeah, 6.25 inches, barrel length 2 inches, 5 shots. It seems like it's the same revolver, right? From here to here. They look the same, right? They're not. This is in 38 Smith & Wesson. They did not have the 38 special yet. This was the I frame. And how do I know that? See? Another book. So here, let me Let me slide you into the... Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't give credit to this book. This one is The Collector's Guide to American Cartridge Handguns. Is Stackpole the guy's name? No. By DeWitt E. Sell, Ph.D. I love this book. That was just a gun show happening. Let me see. Do I have to zoom out a little bit here? Yeah. So now this is the Brownells. The Brownells Encyclopedia of Modern Firearms. So now when we look at the... here we go. Here's the Terrier here, right? 38 Smith & Wesson. And the this was the 32 Regulation Police, 38 Regulation Police. This was 32 Smith & Wesson long, or 38 Smith & Wesson. We hadn't moved into, this is the 32 Smith & Wesson long. All these 30, 32, 33. No 38 Special yet. Then here, when we move into the Chiefs Special, we go to a different frame. So now how do we know that? So if I go forward in here, see when they talk about, see the 22 Masterpiece, KT22 is the K frame. The 1950 Model 44 Military, N44 is the N frame. The NT frame is the N frame. Now here's this 32 hand ejector, I. It's the I frame. 32 Regulation Police, 32 Target Model, I frame. Here when we get into 38 Chiefs Special, we move into the J frame. It's funny how a lot of these books, they don't actually just tell you straight up what frame it is. Like you think that this book would just denote the frame number in this nomenclature here for each one, but it's not. This was the I frame. This is what they moved out of. They moved up. They beefed it up to come out with this guy. So the J-frame revolver, it was designed as a 5-shot 38 Special with primary emphasis on size and weight in an effort to trim the cost of the model. The new design featured a coil mainspring rather than the traditional flat mainspring. The first J-frame was completed October 24th, 1950, with a new serial number series specifically for J-frame revolvers, beating it where else but one. This small revolver, primarily designed for plainclothesmen and off-duty police officers, was shown publicly for the first time at the Conference of International Association of Chiefs of Police. Hello, Chiefs Special. It was held in Colorado Springs in the fall of 1950. At that conference, Smith & Wesson sales guys asked all the police chiefs at the conference to vote on a name, and they took votes. They tallied them up. When everything was counted, the most commonly suggested and appropriate name was 38 Chiefs Special, and it was adopted. The first Chiefs Special was available only in a 2-inch barrel with blue or nickel finish, but because of inquiries from police agencies, the factory began production of a 3-inch barrel on December 6, 1950. It's an extremely small revolver. When fired, it becomes difficult for large-handled person to control. To help to correct this, the factory introduced a new square butt version. The Chiefs Special square butt was introduced October 14, 1952 at serial number 21342. This is the round butt here, and mine here is the square butt. In 1957, they assigned the Model 36 moniker to it. So 1957 is when it officially was called the Model 36. And it had the stamping of the model number begin at serial number 125,000. 4 easily recognized engineering changes. And this is weird because usually these engineering changes would be the 36-1, 36-2, 36-3. They did not do this. This is a 1975 model. And if you look in there, it's just Model 36. See, there's no dash anything. So you actually have to just look at them and see what the changes are and know, like what year they made those, excuse me, those changes to know what version it is. So here's the four. I figured I should tell you this because this is important to it. The first was the elimination of the cylinder stop plunger spring screw located in front of the trigger guard. So, that's the screw that goes in here. That's what would make it a 5 screw. This is a 3 screw. There's 1, 2, and then 1 hidden under the grip. The screw up here is also missing, and the screw here. So that's how it's part of how you would date it down to like 75, let's say. So 1953, it was when they removed that spring, the cylinder stop, plunger, spring, and screw. No exact date or exact serial number was recorded for that change, but it was around 1953. The second change was to the side plate, when the need for the large side plate screw was eliminated. And I'm pretty sure that's what I'm saying. That was the one that was like up here somewhere. This change was authorized on December 13th, 1955, and was incorporated at approximately serial number 75,000 of the J-frame serial number series. The third change was a hammer alteration. The original hammer had a ball socket in the base, into which the ball end of the mainspring was fitted. On September 12, 1962, this was changed to a slot, and the pin using a fork-type mainspring stirrup that engaged the cross pin in the slot. Basically, this was the difference. Instead of a ball and socket, they made it a little hen's foot over there. And this change occurred at approximately serial number 295,000. A fourth change was to the thumb piece that opened the cylinder. The original thumb piece was a flat style. The improved thumb piece was contoured. This change was incorporated February 11th, 1966. And they didn't use the dash. The only time they used the dash, the variation of the 36 signified by 36-1 is the model 36 3-inch heavy barrel. It's not an engineering change as on the other models. So it's just like an option made it 36-1, but not engineering changes. The production of the heavy-barreled Model 36 began in 1967 at the request of the New York Police Department, because they like that. See, here's my Model 10. This is an ex-NYPD gun. See this heavy barrel? They love the heavy barrel. So you could see this is still, the thin barrel. It didn't have that. This is not the 36-1. And then, in the 80s, there was I was like, the air weight should also, that's something, you know what, if I had an air weight here on the table, I'd talk about it. But there was an air weight one where it was just the cylinder and the barrel was steel, and it was an alloy frame. And these things came around pretty quick. Like, it might have been 51 or something like that where they were released. I got a ton of information on that here, but I mean, how much am I going to sit here and read? Basically, the history of them gets pretty interesting. There's here's the difference between the 2-inch round butt and the one that I have right here on the table, the square butt 3-inch. This is our guy right here. And then there were other ones. This looks pretty cool, right? This is the Bodyguard and the Bodyguard air weight. So they had a Bodyguard and an alloy one, a Bodyguard air weight also. I think that was called the Model 49. The air weight was called, the 37 was the air weight. And then 38, Model 38 was this cool one, this Bodyguard. Look at how you could still pull the hammer down. There was like a nub sticking out where you could pull the hammer down. But this would be like where it wouldn't get caught pulling it out of your pocket kind of thing. And then there was a Centennial model and a Centennial model air weight. A little bit, I don't think you could control the hammer, but look at how weird this is. This has a like a grip safety, like a 1911 would have. These Centennial models, 1952. Let me tell you, and this is that original flat latch before they went to this, this contoured latch. Man, let me tell you, Smith and Wesson, they were really going nutty back in like 1950. They came out of the war like hitting the ground running. Let me tell you, they came out with a lot of stuff. Now, what does this revolver remind me of? I'm going to tell you. It reminds me of the Bulldog. It reminds me of the Charter Arms Bulldog 44 Special. You say, that's crazy. How could that remind you? It's a 44 Special revolver. What does it really have in common? I'm going to tell you. I'm going to show you an interesting aspect of these revolvers. So, if you go to a smaller revolver, right? Now, everything's getting thinner and smaller around the same size round. Speaking of rounds, here's our realistic snap caps here. How did we get a 22 cartridge in there? Here's our realistic snap caps. Check these things out. They're awesome for playing with these. And you know what's cool is the revolver snap caps last forever because they don't have to get cycled through semi-auto. So these, for revolvers, these are especially fun to play with. Again, these are totally inert. This is silicone back here, primer protection. You can see where they're getting hit by a firing pin. Very cushy. You don't lose these projectiles, let's say, quote unquote projectiles that go in here. Obviously no powder, totally inert. These things are awesome. Just to check to see with revolvers, there's clearance issues with how are they floating in the cylinder, first of all? Are they just nice and smooth in there? And also when the cylinder's closed, is everything rotating smoothly without anything hitting and indexing properly? Pretty cool. And if you notice, obviously the rounds don't change size just because you make a smaller gun, so you're just putting less and less metal around the bullets. And when you're putting less and less metal around there, I mean, there's engineering considerations to make sure that these things are going to remain strong, And by the way, realistic snap caps, you check them out. You get 10% off using my coupon code Milsurp Garage. One word, MILSURPGARAGE. I highly recommend these things. They are awesome. You can see the difference in the amount of metal, let's say, on the K-frame. Obviously, there's also 6 rounds. Now you say, what does it remind you of, like, say, the Colt Detective Special? Well, the Colt Detective Special is 6 rounds, and it's small. So you say, what are you talking about? You went to 5 rounds to make it smaller. This is not much bigger. They're around the same size. And this stayed 6. Engineering, a little bit of engineering going on there. And here's the K-frame again. Smith & Wesson's K-frame. This is the Combat Magnum here. This has to really, withstand some serious explosions going on there. Why couldn't they make this smaller? Well, here's the thing. If you notice, there's fluting, obviously, cut into the cylinders. And there's also the indexing chamfer here. Right? And then, what is that called? Is that called the hand or something? I forget. I forget my nomenclature, but this is what indexes the cylinder. Every time you pull the trigger, let's see, there's a trick way you could do this. See it down there? So that's what indexes. Now, if you're cutting that into where the chamber is here, look how thin that is. You can't cut into there. You can't cut into here at all. So here between the fluting, so you see here they're cutting the flute cylinder, flute cylinder, flute cylinder, right? Got to do the same thing here. It has to be cylinder, indexing cut, cylinder, indexing cut, cylinder, indexing cut. Now, on the beefier revolvers, right, that wasn't necessary. See here, you have the same thing, the fluting cylinder, but here, this is the Combat Magnum. Here you have the indexing cut right on each cylinder, but it's okay because it's fatter here. There's more beef here to it. Here's the Model 10, same thing. Every single indexing cut is right on the cylinder, but look how much thicker it is. It has more beef here, so you can do that. You can cut it there without blowing it up. But when you make things smaller, you shrink everything down, you have to go to 5, just because with 5, then it just works out geometrically where the indexing cut goes right on here. That's why it reminds me of the Charter Arms Bulldog, because look at how thin that is. This thing is 44 cal. This is a pretty big explosion. I have a video on this gun where I talk about this. You can check it out. Look how thin that is. That's not necessarily between the cylinders, but between the cylinder and the outer edge. That's why they had to go to 5, just so they could put the indexing mark here in between where it's meaty here instead of right here. Look at how thin that would be. If you cut into there, forget about it. Now you'd say, well, then how does the Colt Detective Special, how does that stay small with 6? How did they do that then? They did it in an interesting way. Look at how, while the indexing mark isn't perfectly in the middle of the flute, it is closer to the flute than to here, where it would be too close. Right here, it would be too close, where it could cut through. But it's below, way below, where it's meatier. How did they do that? How did they do that? Well, the Model 36, you could see that I think it's called the hand. I hope that is what the hand is. You could see that it's right here in the middle of the frame, right? But look at what the Colt guys did, how smart they were. Look where they moved it. They moved it all the way here to the edge. We didn't cover that in our Colt Detective Special video because I only just started checking this stuff out. This isn't something I read in a book either. That's why you love the Milsurp Garage, because who's ever talked about this? Find it. Find it somewhere in print. I did not just steal this off the internet. I might have read you a book for 10 minutes at the beginning of this video, but if you hung in there, you just got an interesting tidbit that you'll never find on any other channel. That's why Colt was able to do that. But let's digress a little bit. So, yeah, Model 36. Gotta love it. Let's get some more info here for you. Don't think you've had enough. So, one thing that might have actually, I don't want to say it hurt its popularity, but I've heard people make comments about it because of this, is because in the year 1989, Smith & Wesson, because this thing, they started making it in 1950. They still make it. It's part of the classic series even now. In 1989, they introduced the Ladysmith variant of the 36. It was available with a 2-inch or 3-inch barrel, a blued finish. It featured special grips designed specifically for women and had Ladysmith engraved on the frame. That might have made some dudes be like, oh, that's that lady gun. It's I remember in the 90s into the 2000s or whatever, that was what it got branded as. And it's a shame because it is such a handy, convenient size. Let's look at a little. Let's go right here with the zoom, and let's look at the difference. This is the Model 10. The difference between it and the Model 10. It's just a bit smaller where it matters, but not a crazy amount where it's where it feels like a 25 caliber or 32 caliber thing or something like that. It's firing the same round. You know what I mean? And the size difference is considerable. The Combat Magnum, which basically, I mean, these two K frames are basically the same size. But look at it with this is why the Charter Arms 44 was so popular, because look at the size of that compared to it. Here's the Detective Special. But where you really start to realize its size is like, let's say, here's it next to the Highway Patrolman, Model 28, 27 or 28, I forget. It is the Model 28. It's a 28-2 here. Yeah, the next to the N frame, now we're really seeing a difference. And the good old Model 29, forget about it. This is when it starts to get dwarfed. But that's why it's like a handy size where they scale. It almost feels like they scaled down the Model 10. That's really what it feels like. The dimensions to it all seem similar. Plus, what really reminds me, what sticks with me about the Model 10 is the way the configuration here is the same. You know what I mean? And the grips, very similar feel to the grips. But the first time I shot it, shooting it, yeah, I mean, here's some video. It's pretty accurate, and it's a little hard to acquire the sights because there's no markings on them at all. So like I really need to get in there and put like a dab of something white on the tip of the front sight, sort of, or something like that, just to if I really wanted to start bearing down with the thing. But I mean, it's a 3-inch barrel. It's kind of like sort of a snub nose 38. I mean, it's not really going to be a target gun, but just to be able to acquire the sights quicker couldn't hurt. And speaking of sights, if you want to talk about rarity, if you ever see one of these, okay, in a if you ever see one of these in a gun store, and it has Target sights on it, take a look. There were 615 Model 36-6s made, Target variations. It had a 3-inch full lug barrel with adjustable sights and a blued glass finish. That sounds nice right there. So keep your eyes open for those. So yeah, I also included here, while I'm talking, I got some footage of the, don't know why, but just the Charter Arms Bulldog. Figured I'd just mess around with that while I had the camera out. I'm experimenting with this new way of capturing the shooting of it, which could probably better show you like the feel of it, the recoil, just how it fits in the hand, whatever. Don't make fun of how I'm holding it. I have some weird holds. I like the one-handed hold. I don't like to fully grip with my left hand. I feel like it kind of throws me off. I just kind of need like a little help, just a little help with the left hand, just kind of a slight cradle, just a slight touch to the butt, just to keep everything steady. I like firing, especially revolvers, just one-handed, because I think in a crap hits the fan situation, you're probably going to be firing it one-handed. So let's see. 2002, Smith Wesson reintroduced the Model 36 with gold features, hammer, thumb piece, extractor, and trigger, calling it the Model 36 Gold. The gold color was actually titanium nitride. Oh, that must have been horrible looking. Yep, sorry if you have one of those. In 2005, Smith & Wesson produced the Texas Hold'em variant. This was produced with a blued finish, imitation ivory grips, and 24-karat gold plate engraving. Many 37 variants with lanyard ring were attached were made for Japan. Part of this contract was canceled, resulting in many of these being sold to a wholesaler who then resold them for civilian use. These entered the civilian market in 2001. In 2006, the Model 37 was dropped from Smith & Wesson's catalog. Serial number 337 was shipped to J. Edgar Hoover and is engraved with his name. Yeah, so What else do we have here? Let's load it up again with this realistic snap caps. Take a look at the action. Just what you'd expect from Smith Wesson. Once again, if you just tuned in, these are realistic snap caps. They're totally inert. There's no primer. There's no powder. Take it easy. I'm not popping off rounds in the Milsurp Garage. There isn't even ammo in here, anywhere in the Milsurp Garage. Yeah, so the double action, of course, has that super smooth. Oh, it's just beautiful. Really does feel nice. And the single action, just like Smith & Wesson is known for, I mean, you just breathe on that. Yeah, that's what it's all about. It's all about that trigger. They're amazing that they could get that like that so consistently. You know what I mean? And but what it was doing to me, I can tell you, it was the recoil. It was catching me the edge of this trigger right here. Let's see if the mark is still there on my finger. Sort of, yeah. See it right there? It's a weird position to get on the camera. See that? That was an injury. That bled. I know everyone's like, oh, that bled. That hurt. And it happened from see how the trigger sits right there. And it bit me. I don't know if the return of the trigger pinched me in here. No. I think it's just the recoil, because the trigger has such a curl on there that this tip right here of the trigger bit me. So instead of, with revolvers, you're more apt to use that finger crease, where they tell you never to use that with semi-autos. With revolvers, especially when you go in double action, you're more apt to use that finger crease. But it was the recoil was getting me right there. You can even feel it if you just rub this with your finger. You could feel it that like protrudes a little bit. It's almost like it's like a little too long. But I started to change it up, and instead of using the crease way in here, I was kind of like out here. Double action, it feels a little weird. Single action, it's a little better. But there isn't much. See, now I'm like having to have a lot of space here instead of being all the way in here. I'm like out here. So it for a big guy, it definitely, you have those kinds of issues. See, I don't have those kind of issues with the Combat Magnum. The Combat Magnum, it doesn't even feel like it's coming anywhere near that part of my finger. You know what I mean? It's much more comfy in there. And then when you go from the K frames to the N frames, then forget about it. The N frames are made. I'm 6'3". I'm definitely made. So these target hammers, these big wide target triggers, and these big wide target grips. That's what I'm all about right there. I think these guns don't fit a lot of people. A lot of smaller people might say that it feels like it's a little too big or whatever, but they fit right in. For me, they fit right in. It's these that feel a little weird, but you gotta have a pocket gun. It is what it is, So I think I might just be a little bit more comfortable if I had to bang out a few rounds like that, just using my fingertip. You know what I mean? That might actually work out to be the more comfortable way for me to shoot. And I feel like I forgot. Something. Well, anyway, that's the Smith & Wesson Model 36 Chiefs Special in 38 caliber, 38 Special. And yeah, listen, I got to be honest with you. Smith & Wesson did not win the vote to be the next gun. Actually, Beretta did end up on top. And then it was a question of whether it was going to be a Beretta shotgun or a pistol. I don't know. That would be like a coin toss. But technically, Smith & Wesson did win, because when I ended the vote, Smith & Wesson was ahead. I ended it I said, okay, that's it. I got to make the video, and I'm making the video. But I did notice, after putting together all the books and the info and getting all ready and everything, that looks like Beretta did edge him out a little bit. So I guess we'll do Beretta next, or maybe we'll do another poll, or maybe we'll just do the Mossberg 22 and not even care what the vote was. Maybe we'll just pick the underdog. Maybe we'll have a vote, but then pick the least voted on gun, which would definitely be my style, which would be AMT. I don't know, well, where's all the AMT hate coming from? And Glock, I said I was going to do an obscure, weird Glock, and nobody's voting for that? Interesting. Well, we'll come back soon. I got to figure out if I'm going to do another vote or just going to do the Beretta. Let's just do the Beretta. We'll just jump right into the Beretta. Beretta is next. I love this thing. It's so sweet. Now here on the outro, I'm going to show you we did the M Carbo LCP2, the Ruger LCP2 pin change, the takedown pin. And I just wanted to show you how reliable this thing is now. It's like, even not that the takedown pin change made it any more reliable, let's say. I just wanted to test it, make sure that their new design piece doesn't just fracture in half or something. But all those problems we had it before because of M Carbo and their parts. Did a couple of parts on it. Check the video. You see I detail exactly what parts I did. Look at how this thing runs. It's awesome now. And that's it. That's the Smith & Wesson Model 36, ladies and gentlemen. It's awesome. I highly recommend you getting one. By the way, the serial numbers are behind the grips on this one. You know, it was like all complete nice. I don't think I ever had one Smith & Wesson that actually had the serial numbers of the gun stamped into the grips. Although I read that you're supposed to have that, and I never had that. This one, it's like, I'm sure that this is how it came from the factory, which is pretty cool. And that's that. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate all the subscriptions. Appreciate all the love. Summer's here. Work has calmed down now. I got a lot of stuff to bring for you. Stay tuned, and we'll see you all real soon. Take care.